Good morning, everybody. I am Aaron Schatz of FTN Fantasy, and I'm here with Mike Tanier, as always, from themessenger.com. And this is the Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast to preview Week 8 in the NFL. We have a special guest. This is our first time, I think, doing a guest on this podcast since we moved over to FTN. And our guest is Jeff Gould. Is it Gould or Gold?
Gould, like
Gould,
like the kicker.
So not like Robbie Gould. Gould, like
Robbie Gould,
like Elliot Gould.
Yeah.
So
like
you know Jeff. People know Jeff as Buff Bills Stats on Twitter. He's a big part of analytics Twitter, doing Bills stats and memes. And I thought he would be a great person to get on to talk about the current state of the Buffalo Bills, which is tonight's Thursday night game, big one with the Buccaneers. They obviously do not want to drop to 4-4. He is a data scientist at Deloitte when he is not tweeting and memeing about the Buffalo Bills. I'm ready for tonight's game. I have my Buffalo Bills little people. The problem is the Buffalo Bills pack comes with 3 players, I discovered. Dawson Knox is hurt.
Trey White hurt.
And Von Miller is not wearing his helmet.
He's got his glasses up.
Barely not playing at this point. So it's once again down to Josh Allen to save the day. This is my little Josh Allen.
I thought it would be good Josh Allen and bad Josh Allen. and if you ever see Von Miller's glasses, he's never just got black frames. Those should have been like gold tipped black frames, like absolute like 2000.
The little people. He's missing
true.
the little. He's missing whatever you call the part that goes from your ear to your front of your glasses. It's just the glasses are just on the front.
That could break off and hurt a toddler.
I'm going to give a couple of stats that I ran this week, and then Jeff, I want to get your take on what's going on with the team and these stats. The first is if you split the team between the first 4 games and the last 3 games. So the London game was week 5, and that was when Milano got hurt early in the game. Their defense
and Daquan Jones
was hurt in that same game, and Tre'Davious White was the week before, I think.
Correct. Yeah, 4th quarter of the Miami game.
They are second in defensive DVOA for the first 4 games and 28th for the last 3. Now, the offense, which a lot of Bills fans are complaining about, is 3rd in the first 4 games and 4th in the last 3, which isn't a very big drop. But then someone asked me to run it by quarter, and they're like 15th in the first 3 quarters. And then Buffalo and for some reason Pittsburgh are way ahead of everybody else in offense in the 4th quarter for the last 3 weeks. And obviously, the more we split things up, the more we get into small sample sizes and stuff. So, I mean, I think defense, your take is probably these injuries are bad. And I don't know when these guys, if they're ever coming back. Milano's out for the season. I don't know if Daquan Jones is going to come back. But what's your take on the offense? Because a lot of Bills fans are complaining about the offense, but I feel like offensively they're doing enough.
Yeah. So really, like similar to you, I was like, okay, 4th quarter, we're putting up points when we have to. We've scored 42 points in the last 3 4th quarters combined, I think. But we only have 17 points in the first 3 quarters of the game. So 9 quarters, 17 points, 3 quarters, 42 points. What's going on? And Sean McDermott in his interviews, media sessions, he's saying he's preaching about wanting to make sure that we're staying ahead of the sticks. We're being successful on first down. Well, we're actually doing that. I went on and split things up by down. We're 8th in EPA per play and 4th in success rate on first down over this 3-game sample. Again, we're getting into there's sample size issues, but we're actually moving the ball well on first down. On second down in those first 3 quarters, we have been the worst team in the NFL. We're 32nd in EPA per play.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So next part is why? Well, there's a handful of reasons. It's a combination of play calling. It's a combination of execution. I went into the play-by-play data and I found 15 instances where we had second down and 4 or fewer yards over the last 3 games. We've thrown the ball 3 times of those 15 plays. Every single time we threw the ball, we were in a no huddle hurry up situation. So 12 times we've gotten to second and short and been in our normal game script. We've ran the ball every single time. Are we running the ball well there? No. We're averaging 1 1/3 yards per carry, 4 of those 12 runs have gone for a first down. So that's one issue, is we're getting ourselves into these advantageous situations on second down, and then we're just squandering them and playing conservative. Whereas those are good situations to go and take a shot play, get a chunk gain on play action. And if you don't get it, okay, it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Who cares? You've got Josh Allen. That should be easy money. So that's one issue. The other issue is we have not been playing well against the blitz. Historically, Josh Allen, this offense, we've done very well against the blitz. Blitzing us has allowed, we've typically exploited that for big plays. Over the last few games, I think I saw we're like 28th or 29th against 5+ man rushes. So what's going on there? It's a combination of things. It's execution. Josh is missing the free rusher. He's shifting protection to the wrong side. So he shifts protection to the left. The extra rusher is actually coming from the right. There's nothing, you're setting yourself up for failure pre-snap there. Sometimes the line just misses the block. Sometimes he gets it right, but then the hot route is covered. So that then stems on play calling to need to design the hot routes a little bit better, be less predictable on the hot routes so that we can get the ball out quick. So I think those are really the two big issues. One, we need to figure out what's wrong against the blitz. Two, when we get ourselves ahead of the sticks on second down, don't waste it by playing conservative and running the ball. Use it as a chance to pick up a chunk play off of whether it's play action or just normal, pass. Like, you're in a good situation to go for a chunk play. Don't just run the ball and try to pick up 3 yards for a first down, especially because you're not even doing that to begin with.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, this might dovetail a little bit with something that I noticed is don't get a lot of yak in that offense. I pulled it up on Pro Football Reference, and I'm trying to grab it right now. I think 4th from the bottom of the league in yak per reception. So you're throwing these short passes, particularly early in the game, maybe on second downs, and Dawson Knox is getting hit immediately, or Hardy or somebody like that who you think would be like your yak slot speeds guy isn't getting any positive yardage after the catch on those plays.
Yeah, I agree. We don't have the most effective yak players. I mean, Hardy's had a couple. We just haven't used him a ton. It has been a little inconsistent. Personally, I don't like these swing passes to Diggs because yak is not his game. He does all of his damage before the catch. Right. Just throwing a swing pass to him, like, that's not his game. And I know their reasoning is for rhythm and high percentage passes, but like, Diggs he's a playmaker before the catch, before and at the catch. He's not Deebo Samuel. So get him one-on-one against the defender downfield. I mean, it can even be a 5-yard slant, but a swing pass behind the line of scrimmage, like, that's just not his game. So a little bit of his just trying these quote unquote rhythm, high percentage plays, but they're just not efficient and not the skill set of the players.
And they might be trying to keep Stephon happy by keeping his catch count high on some of them.
I mean, he's being force-fed regardless. I don't think the swing passes are what's going to be keeping him happy. I mean, he wants to win. And another split that I found pretty interesting is we drafted first-round tight end Dalton Kincaid after signing Dawson Knox to a sizable 3-year extension. And so that means the plan is a lot of 12 personnel, or 11 and a half, as they like to call it, with Dalton as a kind of hybrid. So we've been running 12 at one of the highest rates in the league. We've been passing successfully out of it. Our EPA per dropback from 12 personnel is 0.24, and out of 11 personnel is 0.2. So pretty comparable results passing out of both formations. Overall in the year, we've been running successfully, but all of that success is out of 11 personnel. We have minus 0.3 EPA per rush out of 12 personnel. So to me, that's also kind of concerning that you wanted to kind of create this hybrid where, okay, you can force a mismatch, and if they play the pass, then you just run it effectively. If they play the run, then you have a mismatch in the slot with Kincaid. But you're not running the ball well out of those that formation where you supposedly have a mismatch. So, I'm not sure to what extent it is execution versus like play design. Our defense is baiting the Bills into running when we should be passing just by playing numbers. I think it's worth noting that obviously Knox is out with wrist surgery, and that happened against Jacksonville. So he's been playing with the injured wrist for the last 3 games. Perhaps some of that inefficiency is he's simply not been able to block effectively because of that wrist injury. So I do want to kind of, give a little bit of caveats there that and then Kincaid was out for half of Jacksonville plus the Giants game with a concussion. So Quentin Morris would have been our second tight end in those situations. So, you have to take the splits with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it is concerning that you kind of start to try to build your identity for the next few years over this kind of hybrid personnel, and you're not able to run the ball effectively, which is half of the motivation for doing so. So now that Knox is going to be out for the foreseeable future, that's basically going to force us into 11 personnel, where, again, we've been actually more effective running the ball. It's going to mean that Shakur and Hardy are going to have to step up as that third wide receiver. I wonder if perhaps we'll actually play Gabe Davis inside more to kind of create like a pseudo 11.5, where you have this big bodied wide receiver that's going to be able to kind of function in your Kincaid role while Kincaid is now in your Knox role. So that's a way to kind of keep those plays in the playbook, even if it's not the exact players personnel that you planned on using.
Is Quentin Morris any good, or is he basically just a guy?
He's just a guy. He's a good blocking tight end, but he's not really much of a receiving threat, even though Josh did have that big touchdown to him against the Giants where he's just rolling out and thread the needle 30 yards down.
Oh, yeah. That he was the receiver on that one where if that was 6 inches different, we would all be talking about how Josh Allen is a gunslinger and why does he make these decisions?
Oh, he is a gunslinger. I mean, I will say the smart shot is when you don't have the guts to make the great shot, and that's Josh Allen's motto.
Yes. I will say if they hopefully worked on hot reads and stuff this week, because facing the Buccaneers, who have been surprisingly good on defense this year, I mean, surprisingly average, I guess, Todd Bowles is going to bring heat. So there are blitzes coming tonight. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Do you think the defense, I mean, there's a little bit, I think, of, they're 28th over the last 3 games, but, there's a lot of variability in defense. Do you think they're going to be able to kind of get it back together where at least they can be average? Or do you think it's probably really bad for the long term?
There's some stuff that can help. I mean, one of the big concerns is like this has been the Patriots and Giants, which are 2 of the bottom offenses in the league. But another factor is, okay, we mentioned the 3 season-ending injuries to Trey, Milano, and Jones. Maybe Jones can come back at the end of the season for the playoffs. I'm not entirely sure. But on top of that, Ed Oliver missed the last game with the foot injury, and he was out for a chunk of that Giants game. Or toe, I think it's a foot. And then Rousseau has also been injured with the foot injury. He was out for the Giants game. And then Von Miller, he played 6 snaps against the Patriots, and he's still working his way back from the ACL. So those are 3 key great players that have been fighting through injuries and missed time. So they haven't even been on the field. So getting those 3 guys back, I think that will help to try and get things back to average. Going into those like first 3 quarter splits versus the fourth quarter, we've been 19th in EPA per play in quarters 1 through 3 over the last 3 games, which is serviceable. It's not great. It's not the top 10 defense that we had through the first 4 weeks, but with that Allen and Diggs, you should be able to get by with a like 19th at league average defense. And then I think the other thing that can help is if we fix the offense and we're able to get out to these quick leads, put the opposition into situations where they have to throw the ball, that's going to let the defense just play downhill, especially when you get your other front players healthy. So, okay, if you're up by 2 scores, you know they're going to throw the ball. You can just let Vaughn, Rousseau, Oliver just downhill straight to the quarterback. So that's one thing I think that where complementary football, just get out to the lead and let your defense play one-dimensional. And then linebacker, Dorian Williams, he's been struggling, especially in coverage. So I think another thing that can help, particularly in passing situations, is possibly taking him off the field and replacing him with Taylor Rapp as our third safety and get some more dime looks in. So, and Taylor Rapp's a pretty good box safety from that we signed from LA last year. So I think that's another personnel thing that we could look at is more 3 safety sets. We're bringing Rapp in as our box safety and patching up that liability in coverage from Williams.
Well, the good news theoretically is that the Buccaneers are not a good offense. Like I said, their defense has been surprisingly slightly above average this year, but the Buccaneers offense is not good and is living on third downs. They're third in DVOA on third downs. That is not sustainable. The line in this game is Bills minus 9.5. So if you had to bet this one, would you say Bills, or do you feel like they're still letting teams stay too close and you'd go Buccaneers?
I'd probably go Bucs plus 9.5. Almost 2 scores for a team that has not shown that they can move the ball. It's a short week. I'm still not sure how healthy that's going to help Vaughn, Rousseau, Oliver. And Thursday nights is just always a little bit of
it's a little bit wonky.
Yeah. There's just too much wonkiness on Thursday nights for me to be taking almost touchdown and field goal. Now Vita Vea is a true game time decision. So if he's out, that's one of the Bucs' best defenders. And I mean, that's really why they've been so stout against the run all these years. So that could, loosen things up for the Bills' run game. I kind of wonder if that might be a bad thing for us if it baits us too much. But I think 9.5 points. I'm going to take the Bucs.
Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, and when you say, by the way, surprising defense from the Bucs, a lot of the guys from the Super Bowl a couple of years ago
who are still there. They're just older.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were younger guys at that Super Bowl, like not Levante David, for example, but like a lot of the other ones. So it's not totally surprising. Offense, you say, living and dying on third down. They've been dying on every down the last couple of weeks. They've only scored 2 points in the last couple of weeks. Still, I'm not laying 9.5 on Thursday night football for a team that's been playing the way the Bills have been playing. So this is either going to be a statement route or it's going to be a game where they struggle, and I'm going to lean on the side of the struggle with the Buccaneers.
I think I would do the same thing. The system likes the Bills. The system likes all favorites this week, which is weird. But the Buccaneers, I think I would do the Bucs plus 9.5. Jeff is going to stick around with us and give his thoughts on the rest of the big games of this week. So a reminder that if you're watching us live, which if you're listening later, we're live at 11 a.m. Eastern on Mondays and Thursdays. You can make comments and ask questions. And let's talk about Sunday's games. The most important game for playoff odds, really, is the Vikings at the Packers. The Vikings get into the playoffs 51% of time when they win this game and 21% if they lose. And the Packers 37% if they win, 12% if they lose. And this is a true pick'em. This line is a pick'em. So what are your thoughts? I don't know which one of you would like to go first with your thoughts on the hapless Minnesota Vikings.
I'm ashamed for the NFL and I'm ashamed for the Packers that it's come to this. That obviously a big win the other night for the Vikings. I have a couple of stats here. The Vikings blitz rate this year
is insane.
Brian Flores, 56.4% of passes. 56.4. So I went back. Now this is Pro Football Reference. Sometimes their numbers are a little wacky, but I went back through there. The highest I could find in the last 5 years was 54.9% by the Ravens with Wink in 2019. So it is very unusual for teams even to get into the 40% on blitz rates. And I backstop this also with Sports Info Solutions on 6+ pass rushers. So 6+. We're not talking about blitz. We're talking about big blitz. Okay, not 5 guys, 6 guys. The Vikings have done that 81 times this year. 81 big blitzes. Second place the Patriots with 29. This is a team that blitzes unbelievably, and they're facing a Packers team that has no left side to their offensive line.
It's interesting, though. I did look. The Packers' offense has been the same with and without a blitz this year.
Because they throw 1-yard passes.
I mean, some of that may be early games where Bakhtiari was healthy, right? But yeah, obviously Minnesota is going to blitz the hell out of Jordan Love, and he better know what to do with it.
Right. And again, it's either 1-yard passes or it's literal 50-50 balls. Like Love threw the most literal 50-50 ball in history where both guys caught it in the end zone. So it's very random for the Packers. It's just not very effective.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Jeff, on Vikings Packers?
Yeah, I'm taking the Vikings in that one. I mean, Love got out to a hot start, but a lot of the peripherals just weren't sustainable, and we're starting to see that over the last few games. I was kind of, as a football fan, kind of cautiously optimistic they'd go into the bye week and kind of work some things out, as it's his first year as a full-time starter. And then they came out against the Broncos and didn't really seem like there was a lot fixed. So I'm taking the Vikings in this one again. I think Cousins has been playing really well. So yeah.
Yeah, even without Jefferson, this Vikings team is better than the team that went 13-4 last year. Right? My expectations was they were going to play, the underlying stats were going to be the way they were last year, and all the luck would go goodbye, and then they would go 5-12. And instead, most of the luck has gone goodbye, but they've been a better team. They've been much better on defense, like an average defense. Offense has been average, which, considering they have no Jefferson at this point, is pretty good. Cousins is playing great. Cousins leads the NFL in both DYAR and attempts on deep passes of 16 or more air yards. The Packers defense is 31st against those passes. So if he looks for Addison deep, there should be some big plays in this one.
My fantasy team would be thankful for that.
My brain hears you. My soul refuses to accept it.
Yeah. About Cousins, you mean?
About the Vikings in general.
I mean, they haven't been great. They've been average. But considering what I thought they would be this year, average is better than I expected. So yeah, pick 'em line. I think I would go Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to skip it, but yeah, your reasoning is sound, sir.
Yeah, and Jeff also said Vikings, so we like the Vikings. Rams at Cowboys is another 1 p.m. game. Rams make the playoffs 48% of time with a win, 28% with a loss. Cowboys 90% with a win, 68% with a loss. Cowboys offense is down to 18th in DVOA. Even though Prescott has not thrown the interceptions like he did last year, I wrote about this for an ESPN piece for tomorrow. Brandon Cooks is not doing it.
Right.
What Brandon Cooks was supposed to be, he is not. He's barely getting open. He's not getting targets. He's only got like 150 yards or whatever. So the running game hasn't been as good as Pollard hasn't been as good as last year, and Cooks is not really doing it the way we thought he would. And the whole Dallas offense is sort of mediocre this year.
Right. And their defense has been outstanding in these feeding frenzy win more situations. Like when that defense has you on your back, then they sort of just attack and pounce, and you get these ridiculous blowouts. We have 2 games now, the 49ers game and the Cardinals game, where they don't get that snowball rolling, and it's just not the same defense.
Yeah. Thoughts, Jeff? Do you have any Cowboys and Rams thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Stafford's been playing some phenomenal ball this year.
Yeah.
It's that. I mean, and obviously everyone knows Puka. I think that just ultimately the Rams offensive lines just kind of it's their weak point. And I think Micah Parsons in particular, will do enough. So I'm thinking the Cowboys win, but I like the Rams to cover. Dallas coming off the bye. Hopefully they've been able to work out some of their offensive flaws, feed CeeDee Lamb a little bit more. I mean, Michael Gallup looks like he's completely cooked, but maybe they'll figure out ways to scheme towards Brandon Cook's strengths a little bit more, feed CeeDee, and then maybe open up the run game so Pollard has some clearer lanes. But yeah, like I said, I think Cowboys win, Rams cover.
Yeah, the line is 6.5. It's Cowboys by 6.5. Cooks is not even running the deep routes that much. I mean, he only has 3 targets over 16 air yards this year.
Wow.
And no catches over 16 air yards. And that doesn't seem like that's Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is the deep threat, right? So, like, they're not using him that way.
Right. Well, Brian Schottenheimer's not a big deep threat kind of guy, so maybe he's exerting his influence. But I agree. I like the idea of the maybe a backdoor cover, or maybe it's just a close game, but a Rams cover in this game.
I will give a couple of interesting matchup notes that I realized going through the stats. Dallas is 27th in defense on passes up the middle, and Stafford throws passes up the middle near the top of the league in frequency.
Right.
Right? Because if you think about Nakua and Kupp crossing over the middle, you get a lot of that. The Rams are number 1 against passes to the right side, which is where Akella Witherspoon is playing really well this year.
Right.
And Prescott actually throws to the right side more than any other quarterback in the league.
That's just weird.
Yeah, the Witherspoon and Kendrick's numbers are pretty good too. They must be having trouble with the safeties because the cornerback numbers are really good, but their overall pass defense is pretty average, which is still better than anybody expected it to be with a bunch of guys nobody had ever heard of, but still it's not great or anything.
They've also got a lot in their data of Steelers and Cardinals, and I don't know who the Colts quarterback was the week they played. But there's a lot of weird offenses or like non-dysfunctional offenses in their data, which might be.
I think I lean a little bit towards the Cowboys to cover. Actually, I guess I'm still a Cowboys believer. I feel like their offense can be and should be better than this. So I think I like the Cowboys minus 6.5. You guys liked the Rams plus 6.5. And useful title asks how big of a DVOA hit will a newborn have on McVay? I just remember a year in baseball where I can't remember the name of the player. I think he was with the Orioles at the time, had sextuplets and hit 220. So
McNabb had a game won a game where his wife had twins, I believe, years ago. But sources have confirmed in terms of the McVay baby, Adam Gase was not in the delivery room.
So that's good.
Yeah, but Sean McVay doesn't really strike me as the type of guy who sleeps more than 4 hours a night in season anyways. So I'm not really expecting this to impact his prep at all.
Yeah. Right. Let's talk about one more 1 p.m. game, and that is the Jaguars at the Steelers. Jaguars make the playoffs 93% of Sims when they win, 77% with a loss. Steelers 74% with a win, 47% with a loss. These teams have been very good on defense this year. I did not realize until I suddenly looked that Jacksonville is 4th in defensive DVOA. I'm betting they're lower in EPA because some of that is opponent adjustments because they've played a tough schedule of offenses. They played the Bills, they played the Chiefs. But the Jaguars defense has been like shockingly good this year. And Pittsburgh, of course, is all defense because the offense is like Najee Harris running for a yard and then Pickett throwing it up to George Pickens deep.
Right. And then Watt getting a strip sack to get them the ball on the 5-yard line. One note about the Jaguars defense, Josh Allen of the Jaguars, tied for 4th in the NFL with 7 sacks, 3rd in the league with 40 pressures. Josh Allen has more pressures than Micah Parsons or J.J. Watt. TJ Watt, of course, more than JJ, more than Nick Bosa, and more than Myles Garrett. So, like, the quiet contribution of the other Josh Allen has contributed to their defensive success.
Yeah. A couple of interesting stats here I found. The Steelers are the number 1 defense against tight ends. I don't know what Evan Ingram's over-under is in this game. I looked it up, and he wasn't listed at the time. But I think I would go under on Evan Ingram. If you're looking for an interesting bet, another interesting bet would be first quarter under. The Steelers' offense from quarter to quarter, and these can be flexible, these metrics. But a lot of times that first quarter means they don't script plays well, which it's Matt Canada, so you kind of think that might be possible. Last offense in the first quarter.
Oh, yes. Believe it. By the way, that over-under on Evan Ingram is 45.5. That's right on the borderline of whether I'd play an under on that.
Yeah.
Even with that.
The line here is Jaguars -2.5. And last week I was Mr. Believe in your priors. The Steelers are probably more likely an average team than a bad team. This week I'm like, I think the Jaguars are better, even though the game is in Pittsburgh. I think I would take Jaguars -2.5.
Quick note that Trevor Lawrence is still limited. He's still probably going to be wearing the brace this week. Of course, he ran for like 60 yards.
Right. He ran fine. So
yeah, he's not outrunning 38-year-old defenders for the Saints this week. He'll be outrunning Highsmith and Watt and everything. So that is a factor. I'm going to stick with my weird obsession with the Steelers and how terrible they look and how much they win games. I'm going to stick with the Steelers on this one.
Jeff, you get to break the tie. What do you think? Jaguars or Steelers this week?
I'm taking the Jaguars. I think they're a better team, definitely better on offense, and at worst, it's a push on defense. So Jaguars 2.5. Not too concerned about the knee for Lawrence. I've sprained my MCL 3 times. He'll be fine.
Quick fantasy.
Sorry. I also like Christian Kirk overs this week as well.
Christian Kirk overs.
Zay Jones might be out. So not that he's been much of a factor, but that creates some more target share for everybody else.
Quick fantasy question, although I remind everyone we are not the best people to answer fantasy questions. Brett Thunderstruck wants to know if we should go with London or Godwin. I don't remember who Atlanta plays this week, but what do you think of the Bills? Taron Johnson is good in the slot. I mean, that's who's going to be covering Godwin. I don't remember. Who does Atlanta play this week?
Atlanta plays the Titans, who are getting rid of all the guys in their secondary as we speak.
So I think I would lean towards London. London will get more yards and Godwin will get more catches. So it's sort of hard in a 0.5 PPR. That's a tough decision, I think.
It is. The PPR makes me lean Godwin in that they will just throw him little
bits,
screens and flips.
All right, let's go to the 4 p.m. games. I think most of the country is getting Cincinnati at San Francisco. The Bengals, of course, are very low in our odds, in part because they've started slow, in part because the AFC North is so good. So they only make the playoffs in 28% of Sims if they win, 13% if they lose. The 49ers are basically in. And Sam Darnold may start this game.
Yay.
Which will be, I think from the point of view of outside research, if you have no interest in either of these teams, but you just are an outside research person, you want a couple of games of Sam Darnold. You want to see the history of one of the worst starting quarterbacks in NFL history versus the power of the Shanahan scheme. What happens?
Is he really one of the worst?
Yes.
Darnold.
In part because he's gotten a lot of opportunities. Other quarterbacks who are worse tend to get pulled after a year and never get, because he was drafted so high, he's had a lot of opportunity. So in total negative value,
right,
he's pretty much near the bottom, along with guys like Blaine Gabbert, like other guys who were drafted really high and got a couple of opportunities, got to start for 2 or 3 years instead of being just pulled after 1 year and disappearing.
I always think of this guy in this first game or two, because his first game or two as the Panthers starter, they won a couple games and he looked good.
He was good with the Panthers. And so that was weird. But then you have this whole gigantic sample of him with the Jets being terrible.
And then when he came back during the Wilkes rise, he had like a game or two where he was like quasi-successful and they had some wins there. So as that spot starter guy, I look at him and say he could do the thing where you talk about the experiment, or like the scientific, him versus Purdy, what does it mean? Where he could have the good game where you start asking questions like how much of it really is the scheme for both of these quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and then 3 weeks fall apart,
And then the obvious corollary is how bad was Trey Lance?
Yeah.
I would be interested in finding that also. I would be interested in seeing Trey Lance start a game for Dallas. That would be, maybe you can do Thanksgiving or something.
Yeah.
I'm also going to point out that even though people are talking about Burrow being healthier, the Bengals' pass offense has not really come around.
No.
Their single game ratings for the last 2 games were 11% and 5%, which, considering that passing is always more efficient than running, is pretty average. That's not what you expect for a Burrow offense. A Burrow offense should be having a pass offense DVOA of like 40%, right? Like that's, I mean, they should be a top 2 or 3 offense in the league passing the ball, given the receivers that he has. And it's not, I don't feel like he's he's not necessarily coming around as much as people think.
No, and the one game that was the come-around game was against the Cardinals, and it was basically a bunch of deep passes to Jamar Chase, where if you look at how open he is, like the Cardinals don't have anybody who can cover this guy. So it wasn't like, well, this is proof of concept. You can beat the 49ers. I know the 49ers secondary is a little vulnerable, but their defensive line isn't. And, you can't do that kind of thing against them. So, I'm concerned about Burrow in this game.
The line is 49ers minus 3.5. Mike somehow got DraftKings to give him 49ers plus 3.5, which sounds like somebody typed in the wrong thing.
Yes, I put it up right now. I'm looking at it, and they want me to cash out, so I get like $1.30 on the dollar to cash out right now.
Yeah, like, someone made an error, I think.
Please cash out, and you know what? No, I'm just gonna ride the bet.
So it's really hard to know. I guess I'm enough of a Shanahan believer that even if Darnold is the starter, I would go 49ers. Although my guess is this line moves some more if it turns out that Darnold is the starter. My guess is this is a hedge line. It went from 5.5 to 3.5. And then my guess is if they announce that Darnold is the starter, it'll be like 2.5.
Right.
I don't know.
3.5, I was minus 3.5. I would still take it. At plus 3.5, I was doing a dance.
Yeah, I wish I jumped on that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Jeff, do you have any Bengals or 49ers? I mean, obviously the 49ers have been close to the best team in the league despite their last couple of losses. So, but the Bengals were supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals plus 3.5. I don't think Purdy is clearing concussion protocol. I mean, he's especially coming off a Monday night game. I don't think anyone's going to clear it in 6 days in this NFL. So I'm assuming that Darnold is playing. Bengals are also getting T. Higgins back. He's been fighting through that rib injury. So just got a full week of rest coming off the bye. Burrow, again, we're not really sure what the deal was with the calf. Was it re-aggravated? Where is it affecting him? But 2 weeks since they've last played. Whatever lingering issues Burrow has, hopefully have been healed up. T. Higgins should be back and healthy. So I think that I'm going to take Burrow, Chase, Higgins over Sam Darnold.
Our last game to talk about is another 4 p.m. game, and that's speaking of backup quarterbacks, that's the Browns at the Seahawks, which is like the late Fox game. So a lot of big markets are getting this game at 4 p.m. because their teams play at 1 p.m. So like Boston gets this game, and New York gets this game, and Miami gets this game. Browns make the playoffs 79% with a win, 59% with a loss. Seahawks, we have 76% with a win, 56% with a loss. The Browns are the worst team in the league passing the ball. They have the number 1 defense in the league. It's like an incredibly imbalanced team at this point.
Pro Football Talk put up a thing about an hour and a half ago saying there's been an odd vibe around the Browns and Deshaun Watson for the past month. And it's like, you don't say, Mike. Tell me more about this odd vibe.
Yeah, I think I've said this before, but I'm very torn about the whole question of whether Deshaun Watson is toast from an emotional perspective, because on one hand, he's a bad person, and on the other hand, Cleveland fans do not deserve this. It's the Seattle defense is really good against the run and not that good against the pass.
Right.
But Cleveland, first of all, their run has struggled this year. Their adjusted line yards are bad. So it's like not just the running backs, but the offensive line is not blocked as well as in years past. And then the passing game, there isn't a passing game. Right. There just isn't. I mean, Watson was terrible, and PJ Walker's not great, and bleh.
Well, I mean, Walker throws interceptions. He has turnover-worthy fumbles. Sometimes they recover it. Sometimes there's a penalty and they don't have to recover it, etc. But he's unbelievably mistake-prone back there. That is probably impacting the quality of the running game. Injuries on the offensive line, the injury to Chubb, these have impacted the running game as well. But they're getting bailed out with defensive points. Points off of turnovers, points directly off of turnovers, blocked field goals, things like that. Quick note about the Seahawks offense. Both their offensive tackles were hurt early in the year. The backups came in and started the year playing well, and then started playing like backups pretty rapidly as the weeks went on. The Seahawks do a lot of 2 tight end and 3 tight end to hide those guys. As of now, left tackle Abe Lucas is back. So they have him.
He's
back.
the right tackle. Right tackle, Abe Lucas.
Charles Cross, the left tackle, is back.
Oh, Charles Cross is back, and Abe Lucas, we're not sure is back.
We're not sure about. They moved the backup left tackle to right tackle because the backup right tackle was a disaster. So it's Stone Forsythe, I believe, has moved over. They played well against the Cardinals, but this pass rush is coming in a little harder than the Cardinals' pass rush is coming in.
Yes. I don't want to be too mean to Dennis Gardecki, but yes, I think this pass rush is coming in a little. That guy's having kind of a breakout season for the Cardinals, but this pass rush is better. Jim Schwartz knows how to bring the heat, and not with blitzes. I mean, he just with 4 guys. Like, he knows how to stunt and get his 4 guys in.
We're also probably getting DK Metcalf back. I don't know how big a deal that makes. Both Smith and Jimbiga and Jake Bobo.
Yes.
The rookie wide receiver. We're playing well the last couple of weeks. Kenneth Walker is on the injury report. He does break a lot of tackles and make a lot of moves in the backfield to help that Seahawks running game. They've got 9 backups, though.
The line is Seahawks minus 3.5.
Yeah, the Browns can't keep winning these games with PJ Walker. It just cannot keep happening, okay? It's been too much smoke and mirrors and rain and Brock Purdy melting in the rain and weird calls at the end of the game. This has got to be the tipping point game for the Browns.
Thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, I concur. Also, Jerome Ford out with the ankle sprain. Kareem Hunt is also on the injury report.
Yeah, he's probably going to play, but he's not. He's banged up.
Yep. Who's that leave?
Right. Yeah, so the Browns just might not even have running. I mean, Ford's been a pretty solid.
I can't remember who their third running back is. There's another guy behind those two.
It's not Pierre Strong, right?
No, because I think Pierre Strong is hurt too now.
Oh my God, I'm looking.
Where is it, Pierre Strong?
It would be Pierre Strong. I don't see anybody on their depth chart at all. So
yeah, honestly, Seattle's run defense has been really good. So just don't run the ball much. Throw the ball.
So
I mean, even if it's PJ Walker, throw the ball.
Yeah, and then Witherspoon, the rookie first rounder for the Seahawks, has been phenomenal on the back end. So I think he'll be able to hopefully mitigate or at least take away Amari Cooper. And then it's okay, you can't run the ball. Witherspoon is neutralizing Amari Cooper. This is PJ Walker. Okay, he's going to feed Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones. So, I'm taking the Seahawks. I think Geno will do enough as long as he doesn't do anything too boneheaded. And like you guys said, just set the Browns up in scoring position or just give them a touchdown. I just don't see the Browns generating the offense to keep up if Seattle just gets out to a lead. Elijah
Moore was supposed to break out with the Browns this year. He's in last place among qualified wide receivers in DVOA.
He's been their slash guy. He has made a couple plays, I think, as a rusher.
Yeah.
And again, with that offense, you get 1 15-yard end around and you get him in for the 51-yard field goal. And that's one of the difference makers in the game. That's kind of how the Browns offense has operated in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. One more fantasy question. Chris Rojas asked us to pick 3 from T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Zay Jones, and Jacoby Myers. As Useful Title points out later in the discussion thread, we don't know if Zay Jones is going to play, and we like Christian Kirk in that game anyway. And so I would definitely say of those 4, the guy you don't play is Zay Jones.
Zay's out, or should be.
Is it Zay Jones or Zay Flowers?
Oh,
Well, take Zay Flowers against the Cardinals.
I guess then
Yeah.
you would sit Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I think so. Is Garoppolo playing?
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know if Garoppolo is playing or not.
All right. If there's no
I think it's up in the
Garoppolo,
air.
then I like Jacoby. He's a really good player. If there's no Garoppolo, though, I would sit Jacoby. If Garoppolo's playing, then it's a toss-up between Pittman and Jacoby for me.
Yeah, that works. That works. If that is Zay Flowers you're talking about, if it's Zay Jones, then the guy you said is Zay Jones. Thank you so much to Jeff Gould for joining us. He is a great analytics follow if you want to be part of analytics Twitter. Buff Bills Stats is his handle, and we're going to try to get him on Threads as well as we're trying to migrate sports Twitter over to Threads. But he's a great follow for news about a team that is still one of the Super Bowl contenders, sort of, although that defense doesn't look like it's going to hold up its end of the bargain, unfortunately. And of course, read Mike all the time at themessenger.com. And I'm at ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. And we are here every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. So everybody enjoy Bills and Buccaneers tonight and enjoy your games on Sunday. And we will be back Monday morning at 11 a.m. to break down Week 8. So long, everybody.